one of the most loving and soulful people who truly wants to change lives. I have to start the episode by saying this. I believe today's guest is someone who's extremely on purpose. I'm speaking about the one and only Selena Gomez, one of the most globally and culturally celebrated artists, actors, producers, entrepreneurs, and most importantly, I know to her, philanthropists of her generation. As a recording artist, Selena has sold more than 210 million singles worldwide and has over 45 billion global streams. Her upcoming biographical documentary, which I want you to go and see, Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me, is out right now. I got to see it earlier. I'll tell you all about it. And in 2019, Selena launched her beauty line, Rare Beauty, exclusively with Sephora. As part of the partnership, Gomez announced the Rare Impact Fund, pledging to raise, this is outstanding, pledging to raise $100 million for mental health services for individuals in underserved communities. Philanthropy and activism have been key pillars of Selena's career, and she's used her platform to advocate for many important causes. Selena has raised millions of dollars for charity, including Global Citizen and the Lupus Research Alliance. Please welcome to the show, Selena Gomez. Selena, it is so wonderful to be with you.
That was so nice. I felt very emotional, and I felt so honored. Thank you for saying those kind words.
I meant every word. I think whenever I've sat with you, we've always had a conversation about purpose.
Yeah.
Always had a conversation about service. Always had a conversation that's reflective. But I wanted to start with this because we are going to talk about lots of deep and meaningful things today.
Yes.
But I also wanted to start with this because it's my first memory of meeting you. And you've probably forgotten this, but at least for me,
God. Here we go.
Okay. So you'd come over for dinner. That was the first time we met. And I remember that we were about to eat. My wife had made dinner for us. And we say a prayer before we eat. But the prayer is chanted and sung somewhat in Sanskrit, which is a language that a lot of prayers are in for my practice. And I remember having to do it in front of you. And then afterwards opening my eyes and go, I just had to sing in front of Selena Gomez.
That's right.
And
I actually do remember that.
Do you remember how bad it was?
Yes. You were like, I don't know if I should sing in front of you. It was like, please. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was amazing. And also just to say the food was incredible. I remember that more than anything.
I love that. Well, I wanted to start off by just saying to you that I truly believe that this documentary is so special, genuinely.
Thank you.
It's powerful, it's inspiring, and it's the work that we so deeply need right now. And your voice in the conversation, the global conversation around well-being and mental health is the most powerful voice there is. It really is.
Thank you.
And so when you put out a piece like this and you let us in, it only strengthens the conversation across the world. And that's something that you're doing. So I want to just start off by saying that from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you for saying that. I think that is a huge part of why I decided to release it after having an internal battle. I mean, daily at one point, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't release it. And this is too honest. This is too much of myself. Until I realized that ultimately it was meant for something bigger. It wasn't just about me. It was about other people. And it took a life of its own and became what it is now, which I'm still nervous about. I'm still anxious about. But I think releasing it is a huge healing process for me. And it's me letting go of that version of myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so powerful to hear that. I mean, when I hear you say that I feel like you're one of these people that you serve in order to heal and you give in order to let go. And that's such a beautiful cycle because I think often we think when we're going through things that the more insular we go.
Right.
But you're someone who opens up and says, here it is.
I think, being in moments of my life, whether it was my health or personal life, friendships, relationships, I feel like giving myself completely to something is just the best way I can love. But I never wanted the pain that I endured to put some sort of guard on myself, an armor, if you will. And I never let that happen, because I still believe and I still hope. I hope for love, and I hope for healing, and I hope for change. And I never want to lose that. Of course, there are days where I feel so far away, but I would rather continue to get my heart broken than to not feel at all.
That's the greatest sign of strength. I mean, that is such a powerful statement. And I think with a statement like that, you're encouraging so many people to feel heard. I mean, I think most of us feel far away from those things.
Right.
And we're scared to admit that. I mean, you start the documentary with the promise of, I'm going to share my darkest secrets.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I thought, wow, like, I was thinking, Selena, why is it that when we share what happens when we share our darkest secrets? Not just for you, but for any of us, when you're with your friends, when you're with your families, like what does that do?
I think at first it's frightening, but I feel like if you surround yourself with people who support you and love you, you have to be careful with who you share your story with. I think that can be dangerous. Sharing something that maybe was really hurtful, or sharing a story about your internal struggles to someone who may not be giving you the right advice, or guiding you another way that will only lead you to more pain, is scary. So first and foremost, I would say making sure you surround yourself with great people. And then I would say learn everything there is to learn once it's out. Once you say, okay, I'm dealing with depression, then find out every single thing you can about what that means. And when you have a relationship with depression, as opposed to, allowing it to keep sinking and inside of you, it's a little bit more freeing, I think, to understand yourself better. I want to know what triggers me. I want to know why I get depressed, and start asking yourself questions to open up yourself, instead of, it's easier said than done, though, I should say. But instead of, keeping it in, I find that the biggest reward is letting it go.
Yeah, I think there's that statement in the documentary that says, you said your mom would always say, if you're afraid of something, learn more about it, and then your fear will go away, or something according to those.
She definitely did that when I was younger. I lived in Texas, and we were huge with the tornado scene. That was what was happening, and I was terrified. So I would bring like a cross, and I'd bring like a big pillow, and I'd lay in my bathtub, because that's what I Googled is supposedly going to help. And my mom would just kind of smile at me, and the next day, I remember she got me a bunch of books, and it was all about thunderstorms and different clouds and formations and all this stuff. And she just told me, she's like, it's not that scary, it's especially when you know that it's just a part of the world. And I guess they are still scary, but now I understand what happens. And
but I love how you're applying that to depression. You're applying that to different things in your life.
I completely agree with, my favorite thing that I say in the documentary is that I have bipolar. I learn how to live with it, and I just have made it my friend, because that's truly what it can be to me now.
Yeah. And tell us about that process of when you first discover something like that. Like you said, it's easier said than done. The voices are so loud. There's so much inner judgment.
Yeah.
Our inner critic is so painful to live with. And now when you're saying, I'm trying to work on making it a friend, which is a beautiful transition. Tell us a bit about that journey of inner critic to inner friend.
Well, to be honest, I've been to 4 treatment centers, and I have a lot of opinions on, rehabs, if you will, or, places to go. There's a lot that I don't agree with, but what I will say is throughout all of it, learning lessons through dialectical behavior therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, there's something that's always been embedded in me throughout all of those different moments in my life. And that was always to recognize when something was happening to me, accepting it. And I think once I realized that this was something that wasn't going to go away, this wasn't something that was going to be fixed by going to these places. It was more so, what can I know about myself? Okay, if I if I kind of go down this road, I'm going to get triggered, and I know that feeling and I know how to avoid it. However, I go to therapy. I also have, medication that I fully am on, that I believe in full-heartedly, and it helps me stay balanced. But I still have to deal with it. I still have days that are pretty low and moments that I'm just too over the top, and I'm like, I want to buy everyone a house and I want to save the world. But I've learned to kind of understand it. And the best part about that is also my family and friends learning how to live with it too. They can be great friends to me in that way. And that took a lot of time as well.
Yeah, no, these are such, I know that you do so much work in this space, but today when I'm hearing you share all these insights, and they genuinely are insights, they're so powerful, because even you just saying like, I had to realize that I don't have to fix it, or that it's not going to go away. Like, these things make difficult things livable with.
Right.
And when we look at the seasons, or we look at the weather, it's like, it's going to rain one day, and it's going to be dark one day, and it's going to be sunny another day. And when you know that, you stop trying to fight it and change it.
Yeah.
You can accept it, which it sounds, from what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. I mean, it's taken me a long time. It's, that's not 6 years. That's probably 10 years in reality, but it's really been interesting, and I feel better and I feel great now that I can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing you keep mentioning today is letting go. And I think all of us are trying to know how to let go of old selves, old parts of ourselves, or parts that don't serve us anymore. And I remember when I lived as a monk, some of the areas that we'd live in, we'd come across a lot of snake skin. And we'd always use snakes as an analogy of how we leave behind. So snakes don't break out. They don't rip their skin off. They slither out.
Right.
And their skin just kind of like falls away.
Yes.
And then we would naturally not find snakes, thankfully, and find snake skin. But that analogy always like really resonated with me. The idea that when we're shedding, when we're letting go, it's not a aggressive process.
Right.
How did you learn to become compassionate and calmer with yourself? Because at first we can really feel like we're trying to break something off.
Yeah, I think I tend to blame myself when I can't let something go. I feel maybe something is my fault, or I should have done more of this or less of that. And it starts to become, just like I kind of turn sad. One thing I've noticed when I watched the documentary back for the first time, I didn't even recognize that girl anymore. And it broke my heart, because I was talking about my body and my image, and I just hate that I ever felt those feelings. And I think because I have a younger sister, there's been this huge responsibility given to me in a way that has helped me. And I say this about my fans as well, or people that have, grown with me. I've almost had to get back up every time, more so for them than myself. And that's something I've learned to really understand. It's healthy to want to be strong for other people, but I needed to recognize I needed to be strong for myself. And that took a while, and it took things like making myself uncomfortable and changing my my thought process, changing the things I watch on TV, changing the music I'm listening to, little things that I can adjust that will perhaps change my mood or make me feel better instead of worse,
It is some of these small things, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love scary movies, but I can't watch them all the time. I'm like happy and I'm like, guys, let's watch a scary movie. Everyone's like, why? Why on earth do you want to do that right now? And you're kind of like, yeah, you're right.
Do they manage to persuade you?
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
But it was Halloween, so I got my way for a few weeks.
You did?
Yeah.
What did you end up watching?
Oh, we watched Halloween. We watched Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Which one ruins your mood the worst? Like, which one makes it
Oh my goodness, probably like Hereditary, something really dark.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was Halloween. We were just celebrating.
Yeah, no, I always call it cliffhanger chemicals.
Oh yeah.
Like, I feel like when we watch things that put us into states of anxiety or stress, we release all these cliffhanger chemicals.
Totally.
And now you're like, well, why can't I sleep?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Why am I having bad dreams?
Yeah, Radhi's like that. So my wife's like that. She can't, she always gets really excited to watch things like that too. I'm like, Radhi, we can't do this because you will not let me sleep for the rest of the night.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But I think it's really beautiful to hear you say there's these little changes, because I think that's what people feel hardest to change. And I think when I watched the documentary, the greatest challenge you really empathize with is having to do this when every time you're in a car and then every time you get out the car, there's cameras, there's people, there's opinions, there's, that's something very few people can relate to. But I think what's so brilliant about how the documentary is made is that you really feel like we're living that with you.
Yeah.
And so you're like, wow, like, even though I can't relate to what Selena's going through, I can understand how it must be really challenging and really stressful. And so what's it like having to deal with all of this that all of us are dealing with too, but you're dealing with it with an added layer of, exposure?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know any different.
Yeah.
That's what's really scary. Sometimes I think that's really sad. And other times I just think, well, this is what I've been given and this is the path that I want to continue to walk in. And I know any moment I can, quit and walk away. And, that's just not really how I was raised to be. So maybe if it had happened to me later in life, I would have had a different outcome. But because I was raised in it, I really had to learn the hard way on how to deal with it, on how to not give, if you will, that clickbait that people want. And I mean, I think I do my best to try and eliminate these negative stories or this or other people illustrating my journey. I interrupt them with my truth, and that's what I will always continue to do. And that's what this documentary does as well. It's going to be me taking control of my story, and no one can change that or say any different.
I'm so glad you addressed that, because I've always found that with you, that you always lead with love, even in those areas. And I always am so in admiration of that and in awe of that.
Thank
because
you.
I see that whenever there's any narrative, your choice will always be to lead with love and inject love into that.
Absolutely.
And to recalibrate. When did you find the strength to start taking control of that narrative? Because I think that's an amazing skill that today people need it more than ever. But when did you start developing the confidence around that, needing to do that?
I would probably say I started beginning to gain that confidence when I went through a breakup. And that's something that was super public. But all of those things that I'd felt so bad about myself and just so terrible, every day I wanted to debunk those feelings. I wanted to take control over that narrative because I did feel that way. But the greatest gift I got from all of that was me actually being honest with people, sharing my story and gaining the confidence to know I am enough. And I actually work really hard at being a good person, and I know I'm a great person. And when people paint these unnecessary stories, it actually gives me pleasure to just combat it with love, like you said, or kindness. I think it's actually fun for me because it is who I am. I can't waste my time, if I'm to be honest with everyone in this room. I don't want to waste my time being upset or taking in all of the negative things that I hear online. And I don't even hear it. It's just when it gets really bad, other people tell me, and then I see inhumane things happening and people talking negatively about other women, and it just drives me absolutely crazy. And
Yeah.
I think I'll just always be that kind of person. And I would say I'm grateful for my past because it's made me a lot stronger.
Yeah. Well, I want you to know that, we see you for that.
Thank you.
Like it is, whenever you do that, I am completely mind blown because it requires so much self-assurance. It requires so much commitment to your truth, and then also for everyone else. So thank you so much for leading the way, even in that, like another thing. Like, no, it's so hard to do. It's so easy to be defensive. And you've found, because it's your truth, you found a way of sharing your truth without making it defensive.
Of course.
That's,
I mean, thank you. I don't know if I intentionally do it, but it works really well. So I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, stick to it. Don't change it.
Yeah.
Teach it.
Yeah, exactly.
Teach it. The new masterclass. Yeah, no, I genuinely mean that. Genuinely mean that. One of the things that comes through in the documentary is we're just getting full access. Like that's what it feels, right? Like full access at all times. And we get to see all of your relationships, and you get to see the relationships that are long-term. You get newer relationships. You get all these different people who are interacting with you, and they're interacting with you in every element. Like we get to see you straight after an interview, straight before an interview. And I could tell there was a time when you feel a bit of angst because you get asked poor questions,
right,
or like, and I could see that in you. And that really hit me because the reason we set up this conversation, this podcast in the first place, was I was hoping that it would be a place where people like yourself could share your true purpose.
Right.
And seeing you share on screen just how hard it can be to deal with, just, does it minimize the work you're trying to do? What happens? Tell me what happens when you're asked.
I actually just feel like insulted sometimes. I'm like, I sit in what I work. I mean, I work so hard. I love what I do. I love my job. I love talking about my job. There's different facets of my job that I love talking about for different reasons. And when I sit down and I have to do press from, starting at 8 a.m. till, whenever the night ends, it's frustrating. You want to spend that time talking about meaningful moments. And I wanted that to be in the documentary because I felt like I know that a lot of artists, maybe not everyone, but I know a lot of artists and people in my position feel that way. And I hope that it will only, maybe shift that a bit and maybe stop asking people what word you associate with marshmallow and maybe ask them how they're doing. Maybe just having a bit of an inspiration to do more and be better. And yeah, it actually is pretty crazy because that happens. It's weird.
Yeah, it is really weird. And it's interesting because I feel like there's such a trend that's been created about asking people clickbaity, buzzy, moment questions. And then you think, well, but this is a human.
Totally.
With emotions and ideas and views. And I think often people think, oh, well, I've only got them for 10 minutes. So I better just ask them all this stuff. But you forget that there's a whole person behind that. The documentary really humanizes you. What parts of you did you really want people to understand better or see more that you think they haven't been able to see over time?
Just, I guess, where I was meant to be. In the beginning, it really made me kind of sad. I wanted it to be a documentary that was really fun and about me doing this big tour. And instead, I felt so bad because we were filming these really intense moments. And then I had to stop filming. And I think I really ultimately wanted people to realize that I'm not really that put together. I can be, and I feel much better now, but I don't want people to ever look at me and think she has it all and she's figured it out and she is, perfect or
Mhm.
whatever. I hope no one thinks that, but I just don't ever want to be that kind of public figure. I want to be someone that hopefully could be a friend, that could just disarm you from the celebrity-esque part of it. I just want to be someone that people can genuinely walk up to and say, hey, I understand what you walked through. I did too. And have a conversation with.
Yeah. And why is that important? Why do you think it's important that, I guess for a long time, your people did consider celebrity to be perfect,
Mhm.
or maybe it was portrayed that way sometimes, maybe it wasn't. But why do you think it's important for people to see that no one in the world, including me, anyone we're talking
Yeah.
about, there's no one who's perfect? But why is that so important?
It's important to me because I felt like I had to be when I was,
Wow, yeah.
when I was going through relationships, I felt like I had to be a certain way. That's why in 2016, I was talking about my body and talking about my appearance and talking about how, oh, everyone's going to see me as this Disney kid. No one's going to take me seriously. All of those moments, that's kind of where, that's where all the confusion came from for me. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. That's a really fascinating answer because it's almost like you've had to live that way.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of unpacking it for everyone and breaking down that image that's created. And I think that definitely comes across. One of the things that stood out to me in that unpacking of the perfection element that you're talking about, we're so scared of imperfection because it reveals there's parts of us that are not ideal by some external comparison or by some internal trigger or some past experience where we have that feeling. How do you now deal with your imperfections? Like, how do you feel about parts of you that are not perfect?
I'm okay with that. I actually think a lot of who I am are just a few things that are not perfect. Even down to my laugh. Sometimes I used to be insecure about my laugh, or, the fact that I'll always talk during a movie, or, I always do something minuscule. And I think little things like that make me happy because I feel like everybody else in the world. Recent, for example, very small example, but this Halloween, I was a banana, and I genuinely just like got the cheapest outfit, put it on, and roamed around Times Square with my friends and had the best time. And everyone kept sending me these memes because everybody else kind of went all out, and maybe I could have painted my face and done a little more, but everyone looked really sexy and fun. And literally I was a banana. That's basically sums up who I am to a T. And it was, that to me means that I don't have to be perfect all the time. I'd rather be that girl.
Yeah. And how does that apply to work? Like, how does that perfectionist mindset work in terms of like music or creation or acting? Like, because that's beautiful in your personal life. It sounds like there's this acceptance of, we can be more in flow. But then how does that apply to like writing or creating or building? Like,
well, I think I always say this in any session, there are no stupid questions. I always have to say that out loud because sometimes I genuinely will think, well, what does this mean? And how can I unpack this and create a song from this? Or how do I unpack this scene and do the best I can? There are mistakes that happen in the studio and on set that actually end up becoming a part of it. Me messing up a line actually ended up being funny and we kept it in the show. Or there's something I said in a lyric that was wrong and it ends up being the biggest hook that we've got. And I look for those moments. I crave those moments.
That's a great example. I love all of those. And it just, that's what feels like magic, right? Like it's when the imperfection can somehow become a part of the process. where you're just like, wow, this actually feels like we got somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when we start, I love that idea applied both personally and professionally, because I think even the parts of ourselves that we consider to be imperfect, the parts of ourselves that we consider to be broken,
Mm-hmm.
when you start seeing use in those, when you
Yeah.
start seeing purpose in those,
I always say that there's blessing in the breaking. And every moment that you encounter in your life, even if it's just road rage, as simple as that, to maybe losing someone that you love, there is no perfect way to heal. There is no perfect way of dealing with something. It's more just, how am I going to be a better person? How am I going to make the best choice for myself so that I don't end up angry at that person on the highway, so that I don't end up ruining my day because of what someone did to me on the 405. I want to also say that, how can I turn something like losing someone I so dearly love into, well, how can I celebrate that person and the great things that they provided me or that they gave me? That takes a lot of work. So I don't say that lightly, but I try my hardest to do that. And I try to have my friends hold me accountable to reminding me, hey, let's try to flip this and try to turn it into something else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm gathering from listening to you is that, again, you're not saying I've arrived and this is how I think now. You're saying this is what I'm trying to practice. Like this is the approach that I'm mining in my own life. And
absolutely, this is practice. Every day is practice. I even said it last night at the premiere. I was saying, I don't have anything figured out. I am definitely not like, I'm sold, I'm good. It's more just, this is a continuation.
Yeah.
My story is not done, and I can't wait to find out what's going to happen next. And doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and sure there's going to be bumps that happen, but I'm going to learn how to live with them.
Yeah. As someone who's so committed to moving forward, what did it feel like going back to like your school and all these old places? I won't give away too many, but in the documentary you go and visit.
I love that.
What does that do?
Well, going home is like, to me, it's untainted territory.
Right.
It is safe. It is simple and kind. Where I'm from, it is all about, being together, loving each other. I go home and people are like, welcome home, Miss Gomez. They're not, treating me any differently. And I enjoy visiting, what made me who I am. And it always gives me a good sense of like, oh, I hope I can inspire people from where I'm from, because there's not a lot to do where I'm from, but I hope I can inspire just one person to do something bigger than that.
Yeah. Was there any particular place that you went back that almost gave you a special feeling, or something surprised you that you're like, oh, I didn't think this was going to be? Yeah.
Well, my snow cone place. I loved that place. I would go with my dad all the time and my cousin, and we would get the pickle snow cones with grape in it. And it would just be so yummy and amazing. And it just, brought me back to when it would be so hot in Texas, and I was with my family, and we would just stop there and sit outside for an hour and just talk. And it was just the best.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's great to hear. I think there's always, I have this park in my hometown. It's called Broomfield Park, and it's still charming to me, even though I don't think if anyone else went there, they'd find it that charming. They'd be like, okay.
I know.
But when I go back, I know where I used to go and buy my ice cream from, and where the truck would be. And there's all these special moments that almost, but it sounds like, again, like it sounds like it's not like you're like, oh, I missed that. It's almost like that was a part of me and it's a beautiful thing. But now I'm happy to be new. And even today when we were just walking over here and we were talking about just you finding places that fuel you.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've become open to saying, okay, it's okay that life is changing and transitioning.
Yeah.
And there's new places that feel more like home than old places.
I hate change. I really do. But I felt in the past year, which is it's pretty new.
Yeah.
I have really, really embraced the uncomfortableness of change. And I think it's because I get so exhausted of the same thing over and over again. And it scares me, but I did learn that my world can be bigger. By being in a different destination. I work on my show, Only Murders in the Building. It's in New York where I shoot. And I've never spent more than a week or two in New York, and I'm there for months. And just that alone was an uncomfortable, experience. But I loved it. And I loved the friendships I made and the knowledge that I was gaining, the people I was around, the park and walking, and just how precious life is. It's celebrated. There's culture. It just becomes addicting to want to put yourself in these situations and see what happens. So I will say in the past year, I've felt more comfortable with change, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm going to continue to do that. And I want that.
How did you get comfortable with that discomfort, I guess, in the first place? If you're someone who said, like hated change, didn't like change, like I guess obviously naturally work and everything like that. But was there something internally where you were like, okay, now I need to, because you've done uncomfortable things your whole life, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like you've had to do so many difficult things, whether it's going on tour when you're young or transitioning careers. You've constantly done uncomfortable things.
Yeah, but I think I had always kind of returned to the same behavior and the same pattern of maybe, well, I'm nervous of going out because I don't want to be seen today, or I'm going to just stay in because I feel anxious, or I don't want to go out to that event because I don't want to get seen. I was finding myself just being terrified of the world, and that just isn't a way of living. And it's easy to go do a job because, well, I'm with a bunch of people. They help me look good. I do my job. I smile and I'm done. But taking spontaneous trips or, getting out and going to the Balboa Park, which is a very simple park, just doing that kind of stuff is necessary. And I noticed that New York really helped me. It just really opened me up. The show is really great. And I think being around a bunch of New Yorkers, it does something to you, man. It's good.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest changes in atmosphere that you talk about in the documentary is you go to Africa.
You're right.
And that's a big change.
Definitely.
Even if it's a shorter period of time, but you were still there for a considerable...
I was there for a week, yes. Yeah. But I mean, that definitely wasn't the first time that I had taken trips. In the vein of wanting to go for a mission. And it was one of the most beautiful moments of the film for me, because we actually thought we were just going to make a quick little video about, what we were there to do. And then we fell in love with the people, we fell in love with the story, and we started noticing that everywhere in the world, mental health is very, very real. It's very much something that's affecting everyone. And then you kind of realize that the world it's a small place sometimes, because you're all kind of walking through pain and you're all looking at things in a different way, but ultimately you all want to be happy. And I felt like they inspired me more than I could have done anything for them. It was a really beautiful trip. And it was one of my favorite moments of the film.
People don't always understand how mental health exists ever in the world. When you said that they're also experiencing mental health, what was their experience of it compared to what we would understand as our experience in the US? Or
well, I was talking to a woman named Betty, and she was, basically kind of the person touring or giving us the tour around the village and the schools. And she was lovely. But when we stopped to have a conversation, we just were sitting down, and she told me her story and how she was dealing with suicidal thoughts, and that how she went to a lake and sat there for 2 weeks contemplating. Not a day or an hour of moment. It was 2 weeks. And that was something that I felt floored by, because that's different. Obviously, we can have those thoughts, but she dismissed herself from everyone, and she had to find it with herself, when so many people don't need to walk through that alone, but she did. And she did it well, and she's proud of it. And now she is in an incredible school, and she's going to grow up to be the best influence for her village, for her sisters, for everyone that she's around. That's so.
For years, Selena Gomez's life unfolded under the relentless gaze of the world, a young woman catapulted into the spotlight and swept up in a romance that millions watched from afar, only to witness its unraveling in real time. Those closest to her saw how deeply the breakup affected her, how fame magnified every sting, and how she was left to pick up the pieces in front of audiences both adoring and critical. Yet, out of all that turmoil, Selena didn't let bitterness take root. Instead, she found a deeper appreciation for herself, discovering a way forward that anyone who's ever lost themselves in a relationship could recognize. Her split from Justin Bieber wasn't just another headline to her. It was a profound shift, a catalyst for self-discovery. In conversations with people like Jay Shetty, Selena recounted how she grappled with uncertainty and self-doubt after the breakup. She spoke about how hard it was to move on, replaying memories in her mind and wondering if she'd ever truly trust herself again or find love that felt genuine. But in the silence that followed, when the cameras faded and the crowds quieted, Selena learned something vital about herself. She realized that loving yourself isn't just a phrase you toss around or a trend you follow online. It's a practice, something that has to be nurtured every single day. Selena's journey started with making space for herself, both physically and emotionally. She stopped chasing after people who had hurt her, began limiting her time on social media, a place where comparisons and criticism can chip away even at the strongest confidence, and instead focused on rediscovering what made her unique and what genuinely made her happy. Through therapy, writing, and honest talks with close friends, Selena slowly shed the weight of insecurity, coming to understand that everyone, no matter how put together they may seem, wrestles with feelings of inadequacy at times. She learned not to push those feelings away, but to greet them with empathy. Subscribe for more stories like this. Selena often reminded those who listened that while insecurity is something everyone experiences, it's up to each person to decide how they respond to those emotions. As she put the pieces of herself back together, Selena found herself redefining what love really meant. No longer did she see love as something that needed to be proven with extravagant gestures or validated by public approval. She saw now that real love is patient, kind, and built on a foundation of respect, and that respect had to begin with herself before she could share it with someone else. Later, when Selena opened her heart to a new relationship, it was with someone who valued her individuality, not someone who tried to fill a void or complete her. That person turned out to be Benny, who would become her husband. Together, they built a partnership grounded in trust, humor, and genuine connection, a relationship where both could be their true selves without fear or pretense. Today, Selena's story serves as a source of hope for anyone working through heartbreak or questioning their self-worth. She encourages others to forgive themselves for past mistakes, to honor their feelings instead of ignoring them, and to make the conscious choice, day after day, to show up as their most authentic selves. If you're going through a rough patch, Selena's advice is to give yourself the time and space you need to heal, listen to your own needs, and learn to say no to anything or anyone that dims your light. Real love, she assures, will come when you've learned to embrace yourself fully with all your imperfections. And when it arrives, you won't need someone else to tell you you're enough, because you'll already believe it deep within yourself. For those following Selena's path, her message is simple. Healing is a process, not a destination. Subscribe now to stay inspired. Through all the ups and downs, Selena's journey is a reminder that everyone deserves to feel worthy, not because of external validation, but because of the love and respect they cultivate within themselves.